President Obama is trying to make good on a promise he made at the State of the Union last month.
And I'm reaching out to some of America's leading foundations and corporations on a new initiative to help more young men of color facing especially tough odds to stay on track and reach their full potential. The bottom line is, Michelle and I want every child to have the same chance this country gave us.
The president has launched an initiative called My Brother's Keeper to try and help a group of Americans whose lives are disproportionately affected by poverty and prison. That's just one of the ways the president is trying to help, but are there things the government is doing that is actually working against improving the lives of men of color? Joining us now on today's Beyond the Dream, Johnny C. Taylor, the executive director of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. And this is a great program to launch, but how far have we come and how effective must it be?
Frankly, not very. You know, going back to November of 2010, I can remember so vividly an article from the Council of the Great City Schools, and the first line of this report said, and I quote, "The nation's young black males are in a state of crisis." Shortly thereafter, there was another report from the Schott Foundation pointing out all of the problems facing young black men, and here we are, February 2014, Black Awareness Month, talking about it and not having a specific initiative with funding behind it.
So you mentioned funding, and what should this initiative seek to do? Because the president is talking about he wants to encompass all sectors, government, private sector, faith community, communities, all around, to try to help young, particularly African-American men, avoid the prison sentences and get college degrees and high school diplomas.
Well, the key is education, and we know that. What we've got to do is invest money. The federal government, you know, I love America. The one thing about America is whenever we face a crisis, we stare it down. We put resources against it, both financial resources as well as human resources, and we solve that problem. We've known for years that we've had a black male problem, and this is an opportunity for the administration to do something about it. What will we do? We find programs that work. There are programs all over the country, Kelly, that work. Just yesterday, talking to someone in Charlotte, North Carolina, about a program, the Young Black Men of America, YBM. It focuses on young children who otherwise would become a part of that prison system. They graduate 100% of their students from high school and send 100% of them to college. We also have programs on historically black colleges and university campuses, HBCUs, organizations that I represent, who are focused on. There's a specific program at Southern University right now that's called the 5/5 Agenda. The guy who created it, 5/5, I'll tell you the story later, but essentially has been going around the government for the last 3 years since the Schott report, since the Council for Great Schools report, saying we need to fund these initiatives. We know what works. HBCUs in particular have graduated the likes of, you know, Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, and most recently the new chairman of the Microsoft Corporation, John Thompson. So we know what to do. We just need to resource it.
You need the resources. So what is the Thurgood Marshall College Fund doing to help the administration to seek out that resource?
Well, we're talking with them often. I sit down on a quarterly basis with the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan. We meet with all of the various agencies, and we tell them, this is what we know, what interventions are required to change this sort of very tragic situation and facing the crisis facing the black community, and particularly black men. What we need them to do is to put significant resources against them, understanding that money alone doesn't solve a problem, but you can't solve a problem without money.
You know, and the bottom line is money and education, because in 1963, people were actually sitting down at a lunch counter, not being able to be served.
That's right.
But they were going to college, and now today, they sit down at the lunch counter, and few of them can read.
And many of them are just working the lunch counter.
Wow. Johnny Taylor,
thank you.
Of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Johnny C. Taylor, thank you. Hopefully the president is watching and will listen.
I hope so.
And enlist your help. All right, thank you very much, Jane.
Thanks so much for coming in as well. A problem that could affect your grocery bill.